It's the top of the hour and you're just in time for the top bulletin in town. That's NTV Tonight. Ahead.
Tonight, Trade CS may have hammered the final nail in the dam's scam probe.
Plus, first day battle for new education CS.
I've gone into the room and found a very big animal there.
And
Great support.
16 or 18 years. The age of consent debate grows.
Allowing a 16-year-old girl to have the freedom to have sex, it is not right. Because these are still kids.
Also tonight, tired of the wildlife, a zebra now living freely among donkeys.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Zainab Ismail.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is Flora Atieno. Now, Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Peter Mumias' witness statement to DCI detectives on the awarding of multi-billion shilling tenders for the Aror and Kimwera dams is the link connecting investigators to top suspects.
Mumias' statement revealed he was receiving pressure from a senior government official to release more funds for the construction of the two dams. NTV's Mel Miendo with the details.
A lawyer by profession, Peter Mumias, the whistleblower in the Aror and Kimwera Dams scandal, is among the key witnesses of the billion shilling scam that DCI detectives are probing. Mumias recorded a statement at the DCI headquarters on Tuesday, 26th March, and sources reveal that he named a top government official, prompting investigators to seek advice on whether they need to interrogate the mentioned politician. Sources reveal that Mumias also named current Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, Wildlife Department, Susan Koech. The PS was quizzed at DCI headquarters on Monday, 25th March to answer the claims. Koech was the Principal Secretary of the EAC when Mumias was the Cabinet Secretary. Currently, he serves in the Trade and Industrialization Ministry, but he was at the helm of the EAC for 6 months. It is the EAC ministry that is key in implementing the construction of Aror and Kimwera dams. Interesting to note is that the department concerned with construction of the dams has been moved from 3 different ministries since the Jubilee government took power in 2013, from the Environment Ministry to Devolution, then eventually to the East African Community. Sources say Mumias stated he was suspicious about the pressure he received from the named government officials to sign documents that would release an additional 4 billion shillings for the dam's construction. Mumias is stated to have refused to sign the said documents. Furthermore, Mumias wrote to Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich with information that the tenders were unprocedurally done, advising against the release of more cash. This week alone, 4 cabinet secretaries and 4 principal secretaries have been grilled by detectives, with the probe expected to conclude soon. The DCI has been handling investigations into the Aror and Kimwera Dams scandal after the EACC transferred all documents to detectives regarding the same. Sources say it took the intervention of Attorney General Kihara Kariuki to move the investigations to the DCI. A directive by DCI Director George Kinoti and Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji is expected soon. Mel Miendo, NTV.
From that dam story to some prospects in the education sector, where the Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha and the Chief Executive Officer of the Teachers Service Commission Nancy Macharia say the government will continue with plans to roll out the competence-based curriculum.
They say teachers have been trained and are ready. Their stand contradicts that of the Kenya National Union of Teachers leadership, which insists that teachers are ill-prepared.
NTV's education reporter Sharon Baranga with the details.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, hand in hand with the most celebrated Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i during his maiden speech since he was sworn in on Tuesday this week.
I'm going to have targets with timelines, and if you don't perform, the new members of the press can can think of what is going to happen to the person.
Magoha says he will not allow politicians to meddle with his duties.
So let the politicians not waste their time coming to me and saying, oh, this one, this one, this one. I don't think I have time to engage in active partisan politics.
Magoha and the Chief Executive Officer of Teachers Service Commission insist that the government will go on with plans of implementing the competence-based curriculum as teachers are trained and ready. This is a contradiction from the Kenya National Union of Teachers leadership that insists the country is not ready to embrace the CBC.
Already 170 teachers, exclusive of the field officers, have been trained to handle CBC up to grade 3. Yes, 170,000 teachers. April, August, and December, we intend to train an additional 110,000 teachers.
The challenges that we shall get, I think we shall address them as we are going.
Magoha did not shy away from requesting for assistance and teamwork from education stakeholders.
The success we had at the Kenya National Examination Council, which now I see was a very small part of this sector, because I've gone into the room and found a very big animal there. But using the standards and the ethos that we used there, I think the Kenyan child, for us together, we shall deliver.
Currently, both primary and secondary schools have a teacher shortage of 87,737, which the Teacher Service Commission is advising teachers to be creative in bridging the gap, even as the government plans on employing more teachers.
While the 100% transition has occasioned a shortage of 37,878 for the next 3 years, including this one.
The Education, Interior and ICT ministries will continue working together to ensure they deliver credible results from the national examinations. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Well, away from education matters and into some politics now, and a section of MPs from Mount Kenya allied to Deputy President William Ruto are now affirming their unconditional support to President Uhuru Kenyatta and accusing opposition leader Raila Odinga of using the handshake to rock the Jubilee Party.
The MPs who spoke a day after a meeting between President Kenyatta and his deputy said they would fight off any attempts to impeach DP Ruto, arguing it would amount to attacking the presidency.
The meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto and their handshake has forced their lieutenants back to the drawing board. Today, 35 MPs from Mount Kenya, mostly allied to DP Ruto, called a press conference to pledge allegiance to President Kenyatta, arguing the presidency could not be separated and they were ready to fight for its survival.
We are ready to protect our own. We are ready to protect the gains that we achieved during the first Jubilee term.
They still believe the alliance between the president and opposition leader Raila Odinga is the biggest threat to the relationship between their party leaders.
Jubilee should be wily of any agent that want to slow down President Kenyatta's development record, his pledges and contract is entered with the people of Kenya.
In the region. The MPs in their weekend meetings, together with those from the Rift Valley, have been piling pressure on President Kenyatta to call the Jubilee House to order. And their belief is that the meeting between President Kenyatta and DP Ruto was a wake-up call which they took up the cue from and should be used to rebuild the party as they dismissed any divisions.
We won't call our house to order. This unity is a unity that was there prior to 2017 and will continue that way to 2022 and beyond.
We are coming here to reinstate so that people who are bringing elements of disunity and confusion that the president has been abandoned must understand that Jubilee includes His Excellency, is led by His Excellency the President. We are members of his party. We have never been members of ODM. And His Excellency the Deputy President is the principal assistant of the Deputy of the President.
Pahali rais alituacha akatuambia tuko hapo, ndio hapo tu. We are still there. Na hatujatoka hapo mreithi.
According to the MPs, President Kenyatta and his deputy should now move out and assure Kenyans of their unity to once again spur growth, accusing Raila of misleading the president.
We cannot claim to be uniting country while we are segregating other leaders and sowing seeds of discord within the party and country.
Members of Parliament also want President Uhuru Kenyatta to rethink his relationship with that of Raila Odinga, as they insist that it is doing more harm than good to the country and to the party. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at Parliament Buildings.
Now to a story raising a lot of questions around the possibility of extrajudicial killings, and residents of Kibwezi now want the Kenya Wildlife Service to increase its surveillance of the Tsavo East and West National Parks after what they say is an increase in the number of bodies getting dumped in the parks.
The residents say prior to Tuesday's discovery, 5 other bodies had been removed from the park in the last 4 months. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports that the agony of the families of missing people is far from being resolved.
The Tsavo National Park, known for its rich array of wildlife, a key tourism destination. But to the locals here, this park is also gaining notoriety as a dumping site for human corpses. This Tuesday, 6 decomposing bodies were found at the spot, some 15 kilometers from Tito Andei along the Mombasa-Nairobi highway. While this discovery sent shockwaves across the country, to the residents here, this wasn't a first.
Wakati mwingine vile vile kulipatikana na mwili wa jamaa ambaye alikuwa tafutwa kwa siku kadhaa. Baadaye tukaja kusikia kuna miili nyingine 4 ilipatikana huko, ikapelekwa katika chombo cha kuhifadhia maiti cha Makindu.
The residents blame the custodians of the park, the KWS, and the frosty relations between them and the service.
Ingekuwa uhusiano wa KWS na raia ni mwema, basi tungekuwa tunasaidiana na vitu kama hizo labda nisingeweza kufanyika.
The residents say the park is highly secured with marked entry and exit points, making it difficult for residents to trespass into the park. It is believed that the 6 people were killed elsewhere and their bodies dumped here. But the residents call on the KWS to be more vigilant. There is still no respite for the families of the missing people whose body could be amongst those found in the national park. The government admits that the identification process will be lengthy.
But the bodies are badly decomposed. We are not able to get their faces. We are not able to get their fingerprints. And that means it takes us to DNA.
Although the cause of the deaths is yet to be established, there are fears that the dead could have been victims of extrajudicial killings, a situation that the incoming police chief says will not be tolerated under his watch.
Where police have been involved in extrajudicial killings, as stipulated before, if this committee confirm my nomination, I will use the resources available at my disposal to take action as long as it's outside the law, the killing.
The bodies of the deceased are still being held at the city mortuary pending completion of the said processes. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Now, the nominee for the position of the Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, says he will be guided by the rule of law while executing his duties if approved by Parliament.
Mutyambai, who appeared before the Administration and National Security Committees of both houses, has pledged to address the issue of corruption by implementing lifestyle audits for all police officers in the service.
I will also work closely with institutions, authority like IPOA, the Department of Public Prosecution, to bring harmony and sanity within the police.
There are some officers who have worked actually for 20 years for them to go to the next level of the rank in the police service today. Yet, we have an officer who is jumping literally 1 year to the next level. 1 year to the next level. I may actually conclude that the nominee is half-baked police officer.
I'm competent, no issue of influence in my promotion, no godfather to this point I've reached. And I've attested in my statement, very clear. This is a testimony that hard work pays.
Well, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu will on May 31st, 2019 know whether or not she will stand trial over graft allegations leveled against her.
The lawyers made their final submissions in the 3-day hearing of the petition where the Deputy Chief Justice is challenging the charges against her. The Director of Public Prosecutions through Queen's Counsel Khawal Qureshi asked the court to dismiss her petition and direct that she stands trial.
A 5-judge bench will decide if she will. The judges also said temporary orders stopping her prosecution remain in place until that date.
The DCJ is facing a total of 13 counts on charges of abuse of office, obtaining the execution of a security by false pretense, and lawful failure to pay taxes to the Kenya Revenue Authority, forgery, and uttering a false document.
To another case that's heading to the courts, the driver of the bus that was involved in an accident in Matu on Tuesday faces charges of speeding that led to the death of 14 passengers. The driver, Abubakar Mohammed Banna, surrendered today at Matu Police Station and was presented before the Kithimani Law Courts. He remains in custody and is likely to face murder charges. The driver of the truck involved in the accident was also arrested yesterday.
Katuku. The suspect accused of sodomizing 9 boys at the Martyrs of Uganda Children's Home in Machakos County will have to be detained for a few more days as he awaits a ruling on his bail application. David pleaded guilty to 1 out of the 9 counts he faces. He was arrested in Masinga while hiding at his aunt's home.
Also, the Office of Director of Public Prosecution has been urged to look into the case of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, PCEA, where former moderator David Galanju and 2 former employees, James Mwirori and Peter Mwangi, have been charged with the theft of over 50 million shillings. The state had delayed the matter for 18 months, forcing the court to push the hearing date to July this year. The church's Secretary General will appear as a first witness.
And finally, 2 businessmen who were charged and acquitted for the murder of slain Mombasa tycoon Ibrahim Akasha's son have raised concern over the delay in the start of their civil case. The 2, a Serbian and a Kenyan, claim that they turned up for the hearing only for the case to be postponed. They say it is the 3rd time that the start of the case has been postponed. A new hearing date has been set for the 6th of May.
Well, here's something you don't see every day, or probably never have. In Kisio Village, Makueni County, a zebra has decided that the wild is not home, and since 2017 has joined a herd of donkeys in the area to live a life devoid of the struggles and the dangers of the wild.
Well, the zebra's arrival was not strange, but her prolonged stay has led her to get accustomed to human interaction, although the humans want her gone. Activist Charity Mwangi reports on the zebra that appears keen to show that stripes are only skin deep.
Call it an identity crisis or an unlikely friendship. The presence of this zebra on this farm in the company of these 3 donkeys is strange, to say the least. Where they go, she follows, and no one can explain why.
Zebra ni ya kike. Sijawahi ona hiyo dalili ya kutaka kuzaa.
The zebra has a mischievous streak, and her influence on her distant relatives is quite strong, as they too seem to follow in her mischief, leaving their owner to cover the cost of their errant ways.
Ilienda ikakula pamoja na punda zangu, na hiyo hasara nikahesabiwa.
And her taste is expensive. She feeds on the very good of the land. This reflects on her rapid growth in the years spent in the home.
Wakati wa chakula huko mashambani kama ndengu, kama mahindi, kuna watu wanalima meloni huko kwa shamba, inakula usiku na mchana, na ni kitu yenye nguvu. Haikuwa hivyo tangia ikuje. Sasa imekula, huwezi ukakimbizana nayo, huwezi ukaiweka kamba.
The zebra is yet to know her way around, and the fumbling also attracts some losses.
Wakati ilikuwa na kiu, ikaingia kwa mtungi, ilipoingiza kichwa yake ikakwama kwa hiyo drum. Na kwa vile haikuwa inaona, ikakimbia na hiyo drum ikiwa ndani ya kichwa. Kaenda ikagonganisha hiyo drum ikavunja.
The zebra will, however, not engage in any tedious work, as her donkey friends usually do. On this front, it would appear she prefers to be an observer, not a participant. The farmers have contacted the Kenya Wildlife Services, whose personnel are yet to respond on account of what they term as a lack of facilitation for tranquilizers to help transport the animal. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Nikukatu nakula. Sounds familiar, like someone I know in the newsroom, but I won't name anyone. But anyway, from that interesting story, we'll take a break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Well, thank you so much for making the time to be with us. And Court of Appeal judges Rosaline Nambuye, Daniel Musinga and Patrick Kiage have come under fire for advocating for a rethink of the age of consent.
Quite the talking point. In a ruling delivered last week, the judges reignited a long-running debate on how old is old enough to make informed choices on one's sexuality.
The judges pointing out that in many jurisdictions, the age of consent is 16. On NTV tonight, Olive Barrows examines the case made by the judges and why many a woman is opposed to the idea.
No. Hapo naye nimekataa. Bado ni mtoto. Hapo bado ni mtoto. Na hiyo inachangia baka wanataka kuleta baka condoms kwa mashule. Hiyo ni sasa ni ku-expose into sexual activities na hiyo nimekataa nayo.
Teresia is not alone in her fear. The fear that lowering the age of consent from 18 to 16 will encourage sexual promiscuity among the youth and embolden sexual predators who take advantage of their naivety.
So you can imagine a child with an identity crisis, any man who comes to her and wants to prove to her that she's worth, she'll just go ahead and sleep with him. This is wrong. People will take advantage of this young girl.
At 16, the experts say the faculties that provide for competent decision-making may not have been fully formed.
That decision-making in human beings has to do with the stage at which they are in terms of their ability, the brain's ability to make logical vis-a-vis emotional instincts.
Today we know how the human brain develops. The human brain is not fully mature until you're into your 20s, early 20s. The last center to develop is the centers about judgment, how to make decisions, how to weigh your decision of what you're doing now and its consequences for tomorrow.
And Nancy Okoth says nobody knows that better than her.
I will say that I'm one of the girls that gave birth, to be specific, at the age of 13 years, 8 months, I was already pregnant. So that is 9 months later, I was having my child, that is at the age of 14 and some few months, when I was still a child.
But there are those who agree with the assessment of the Court of Appeal judges who in a ruling last week stated, it is rather unrealistic to assume that teenagers and maturing adults do not engage in and often seek out sexual activity with their eyes fully open. They may not have attained the age of maturity, but they may well have reached the age of discretion and are able to make intelligent and informed decisions about their lives and their bodies.
Except today with the media coming in of social media and information just running all the way on the internet, our girls tend to know quite a bit so early. So they could have a point.
And while Nancy is testament that there can be life post-teen pregnancy, she maintains that 16 is simply too young to deal with the grown-up consequences of the premature sexual act.
I really think my life could have been different when I did conceive, because I think I would have done better in my class 8 and even went to a better school. As much as I went to a provincial school, but I think that I would have gone even to a national school, which should have given, widened my chances of getting to one of the best university or doing one of the best courses as medicine.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
And I'm sure even many a man do not agree on this particular issue. To a very sad story from Mumias, where police are investigating an incident where a man and his expectant wife were murdered last night.
The woman, who was 4 months pregnant, was butchered in her house while the husband was tied up, tortured to death, and his body dumped in a nearby river.
Zacchaeus Masami with the details.
Panyako village in Matungu constituency is in mourning. 30-year-old Yusuf Shiundu and his wife Wanjiru Shiundu had their lives cut short by a gang of 3 men who were armed with machetes. The gang is believed to have reached out to Saumu Wanga, the first wife to the late Shiundu, but on realizing that they were not together, they made their way here. Yusuf's body was discovered by passers dumped along the banks of River Holera.
Akaniambia mimi naitwa Twabu, haina haja ya kunijua sana. Nikamwambia, akaniambia si utoke nje. Nikamwambia mimi siwezi toka nje. Bahati mzuri kulikuwa na gari inatoka, ni kwa barabara. Gari inatoka, saa ile light ya gari akaonyesha. Sasa walikuwa watatu. Mmoja alikuwa kwa geti yetu, venye aliona light ya gari akajificha. Sasa wale wengine pia venye waliona light ya gari, mimi niliwaona tu wakatoroka wakaenda. So mimi nikasema hapa naye siwezi toka.
Kaona watu wamejaa huko kwa mtoni. Nikasitukia ni nini yenye imefanyika kwa mtoni. Bila nilikuja na maziwa nikaweka kwa nyumba, na mtu rafiki yake mmoja akakuja na pikipiki akasema Shundo ameshakufa. Ako huko kwa mtoni, wamemtupa kwa mtoni. Sasa vile mtoto wangu mwingine vile alienda huko kwa nyumba yake, pia alienda kuambia bibi yake ati bwana yake amekufa. Pia akapata bibi yake amekufa.
Naye nimezoea kumuona na hiyo t-shirt ya red. Ilikuwa imepasuliwa vipande mbili, imefunga mikono kabisa. Akamfungua, akambeba, akamtoa chini ya mto hapa, akamweka huko juu, akamlalisha, akachukua jacket yenye imekuwa hapa, akamfunikia, na sisi tunaendelea na kuhuzunika kulia huko. Watu wakajaa sana. Sasa mimi nilikuwa na shughuli ya kwenda kotini huko Mumias. Kaanza safari nilienda kabla wajampepa, lakini hapo nikasikia mnalia hapa. Nyumbani pia wamerape mama, wamemuua kama bibi yake ako kwa nyumba.
The motive of the attack is still unclear, although police say Yusuf has been on the list of persons wanted for engaging in criminal activities within Mumias. Yusuf had been in and out of police cells.
Lakini venye niliona tu ni kama walikuwa na lengo fulani au nia fulani. Sasa mimi mwenyewe kujijazia nikasema usiku hii saa 7 na mtu mwenye simjui kunipigia, nikamwa tu nisitoke kwa nyumba. Siwezi jua kwa harakati hiyo walikuwa wanataka nini. Siwezi jua na sijui penye walitoa namba yangu. Sijui walikuwa wanataka nini na sielewi.
Nikasunguka kwa lami. Nilipofika nikaona mtu amelala ng'ambo. Amelalia tumbo. Sasa nilipofika hapo karibu, nikaona baba yake anakuja haraka na anaingia hapo ndani. Kwa sababu huyu kijana alikuwa ndani ya mtaro. Baba vile aliingia, akaanza kulia na kuanza kufungua hiyo mikono. Alikuwa amefunga mikono nyuma.
Zakis Masame, NTV, Kakamega.
Well, from that harrowing tale to a heartbreaking story of a former GSU officer's fall from grace.
Nicholas Langat, who was once part of the team guarding the president, now has to crush or get a living from the stone mines as a quarry worker.
He says he lost his job after taking an extended leave to take care of his ailing wife.
NTV's
This is now the daily life for Nicholas Lagat from Ainamoi village, Kericho County. The fall has been slow and painful. Some 7 years back, he was part of the elite squad of police officers assigned to protect President Uhuru Kenyatta. But today, he makes a paltry of 200 shillings on a good day.
Hii kazi naifanya sio eti naifanyanga kwa raha zangu. Wanaifanya tu ili ni chimudu kimaisha.
His eyes telling of the strife he has been through over the years.
It all happened when my wife started becoming sick. She was suffering from throat cancer.
Lagat sought permission from his superiors to go home and take care of his ailing wife. Her condition was deteriorating.
I found that she was seriously sick. Saa ikanifanya nikae nyumbani nikitafutia yeye madawa to an extent that I could not even manage to meet hospital bills.
Unfortunately, his wife succumbed to her illness and was forced to single-handedly take care of their child. But he lost his job when he failed to return to work at the end of his leave. With no source of income and with an extra mouth to feed, his frustrations drove him to the bottle. It soon became an addiction. It has since been a strenuous fight to reclaim his life.
We have been really suffering because of Nicholas. Please help us. Please help Nicholas.
Lagat has now signed up with the rehabilitation center and is slowly getting his life back together. He hopes in the end he will be back on his feet and perhaps get his old job back. Helen Aura, NTV.
All the best to him as he tries to get back to normal. First of all, of course, the underlying issues, which would be the drinking problem. New recruits and police officers in the National Police Service will now have to sit for a standardized examination during their training to boost their skills and expertise in dealing with emerging needs and challenges in the security sector.
This is according to a new examination policy and guidelines which the outgoing Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, says will also boost the capacity of the officers in evidence collection and investigations.
The National Police Service is now banking on training through the new National Examination Policy and Guidelines to enable its officers acquire skills and expertise to professionalize and deliver their mandate effectively. The new guidelines introduces a course examination for those joining the service through normal recruitment and a proficient examination for the serving officers in the field. Outgoing Inspector General Joseph Boynet says this is geared towards boosting their intellectual capacity and skills to deliver their mandate.
And a process that ensures all our police officers receive certification that is nationally recognized. It will also contribute and aid in decision-making towards granting promotions and deployment.
Directorate of Criminal Investigations will rely on the new policy and guidelines to boost evidence collection capacity of its officers to ensure successful prosecution of high-profile cases in the country.
Now we are joining the global, variance in terms of competency, in terms of the way we drill our officers, in terms of the field expectations, to meet each and every challenge, no matter from which sector.
For a while now, the police service has been dogged with accusations of corruption, extrajudicial killings, and hostile relations with the public. The new guidelines seek to resolve this and professionalize the service and make it citizen-centered.
And if there's anybody who will benefit out of this, it is the ODPP as prosecutors, because a professional police service translates to an effective prosecution service.
Vincent Odur, NTV.
And we're going to take a very quick break here on NTV tonight, but Julian Amboko is ready to bring you all the news making headlines in the world of business.
The central bank now says the part of the Banking Act which empowered it to prescribe conditions for deposits and withdrawals was unimplementable right from the get-go. The CBK, however, warns that doing away with the existing regulations threatens to deal a major blow to the country's economy. The Central Bank of Kenya has been at pains to defend the regulations it put out in January 2016 regulating large cash transactions in the banking sector. Earlier this month, the market regulator was grilled by the National Assembly's Finance Committee, which held the position that the regulations lacked the full backing of the law, while stating that this provision was fraught with challenges from the outset. CBK now warns that doing away with the same will leave Kenya's economy extremely vulnerable.
We claimed and we explained it to the committee that the law was unimplementable. The amendment itself is problematic. And we have said that if it is allowed to take effect, it will cause damage to the economy that is much more severe than the golden bug crisis of yesteryear.
The central bank also maintains that Section 33B of the Banking Act, which is on interest rate capping, undermines its capacity to drive monetary policy, contravening the ruling by the High Court on March 14, 2019, which argued that such is not the case.
This matter of encroachment on monetary policy is alarming. As the court said, the petitioner did not fully convince the court on this matter. But actually, I think it is we who should convince the court on that matter.
In its March 2019 Post-Monetary Policy Committee brief, the CBK also indicated that market-driven consolidation, as has been witnessed in the recent past, is strengthening the banking sector. And elsewhere, Ugandan President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni toured the port of Mombasa Thursday, a day after the government of Kenya offered his country land to build a dry port at Naivasha as part of the partnership for the standard gauge railway. President Museveni also reiterated that goods destined for Uganda will now be cleared in the shortest time possible at the port. NTV's coast reporter Kevin Mutai with the details.
President Uhuru Kenyatta led his Uganda counterpart Yoweri Museveni tour the port of Mombasa Thursday morning.
He has seen for himself the entire configuration of the port. We have shown him how the railway is going all the way into the port, what we call the port relief lines, and therefore making the evacuation of cargo a lot more efficient.
The Kenya Ports Authority is constructing a new container terminal that is expected to accommodate more than 520 additional containers. President Kenyatta says Kenya will utilize Lake Victoria for transportation of petroleum products to Uganda once the oil jetty is done. In 2018 alone, Uganda imported more than 7.4 million metric tons of cargo through the port of Mombasa, translating to 80% of the transit market share among the East African member states.
Uganda is a key client of our country because of the 30 million tons throughput through Mombasa port. 25% of that actually goes to Uganda. And so you'd say Uganda is the single largest client of our country.
President Museveni indicated that Kenya has offered Uganda land to build a dry port at Naivasha in the boosted partnership on the SGR. Kenya is looking to move all cargo from the road to the SGR, with the head of state indicating the existence of plans to eliminate barriers that slow down movement of cargo, such as multiple roadblocks and unnecessary weigh bridges. Kenya's maize farmers are expected to access the Ugandan market with greater ease as the fruit of the standard gauge railway for imports and exports. President Museveni also disclosed that Uganda will resume exporting its poultry to Kenya, as well as immediately lift the ban on beef imports from Kenya. Uganda's dairy products are set to have less paperwork to deal with while exporting to Kenya.
The two leaders have agreed to work together to enhance trade ties between Kenya and Uganda and also promote the East African integration agenda by harnessing policies and regulations within the region. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
And staying with matters Kenya-Uganda relations now, is the work to revive what was previously known as Webuye Pan Paper Mill, as indicated by no less than the president, just a plan on paper that is yet to put meal on Kenyans' tables? In what seemed as an unprecedented move, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni decried the non-operationalization of the facility, whose current state is not only affecting Kenya's economy, but also Uganda's as well. President Kenyatta, in a quick response, said it is now being worked on. Jen Goiri takes a look at the current state of affairs of the rye paper mill in Webuye, which still sits idle and dust-laden.
So we totally pacify this area.
State House, Mombasa, Wednesday afternoon. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni spoke and exposed Kenya when he delved into the issue of rye paper, formerly known as Webuye Pan Paper Mill.
And when I was going to university, Kenya had built a paper mill there, near a place called Turbo. From Webuye you go to Turbo. Now, I don't know what happened to that paper mill.
It collapsed. It's now when we're trying to revive it.
Yes.
And the lost opportunity as a result of the inactivity of the facility, despite promises to get it back up and running, runs into billions of shillings.
This $130 million, which I'm donating, I don't know, to imagine I'm buying paper from Finland. Why not buy it from Webuye? It is because of kulala, what wamelala.
His assertion that someone is sleeping on the job comes against the backdrop of this event of 15th December 2016, when President Uhuru Kenyatta, accompanied by his deputy William Ruto, then Bungoma Governor Ken Lusaka, Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, and a host of MPs reopened the mill. The Rai Group, which took over, promised to pump 6 billion shillings to revive the facility. 3 years down the line, no smoke, no machinery rumbles, no workers on site, just armed guards at the gate. The giant is still sleeping, laying its dust-coated weight on the hopes of residents and squeezing out their confidence in the government.
Pan paper imekuwa ni kama ni ndoto, kwa sababu tumedanganywa na viongozi wetu kwamba pan paper inafunguliwa.
Sijaona karatasi ikipitishwa, kwa sababu zamani karatasi zilikuwa zinapitishwa kwa matrela hapa, marola zikipita hapa. Siku hizi hata nikikaa kwa hii barabara sionani karatasi ikipita. Sasa sijui inapitishwa wapi.
Hata biashara sisi iko chini, maana maziwa tunaenda kwa manyumba zenye zilikuwa za pan paper, hakuna watu hapa ndani, watu washahama. Wengine ni matatizo tu, hata mtu hana vile anaweza saidia ndio anunue hiyo maziwa.
President Museveni has revived the conversation before the facility could twitch enough to show some solid revival. Jane Goiri, NTV.
And let's look at news making news further afield, and that is Britain's government says it intends to hold a third parliamentary vote on Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit deal on Friday, but was awaiting the go-ahead from the Speaker of the House of Commons. Commons Speaker John Bercow has previously blocked a third vote on the deal, invoking a 17th century statute that prevents the Parliament from voting on the same thing again and again. British MPs on Wednesday voted against 8 alternative Brexit options aimed at overcoming the deadlock over May's unpopular European Union divorce deal. The PM had alleged to step down if MPs backed her EU divorce deal. EU leaders had granted an extension until May 22nd if the withdrawal agreement is approved by the House of Commons this week. And that's it for the business news tonight. I leave you with the financial report.
Insurance 101, brought to you
Compliance and Disaster Management in the Nairobi County Government, Tito Kilonzi, has denied the involvement of City Council askaris in an incident that resulted in the throwing of a tear gas canister inside a matatu en route Umoja Estate.
Kilonzi blamed unknown people, saying City Council askaris are not authorized to use firearms of any kind. The officer also reported the attack on his officers following the incident, saying that was not on account of what happened, but rather the bad blood between the askaris and members of the public.
Kilonzi was, however, at a loss to explain a previous episode where police officers in the company of county askaris shot 2 tear gas canisters inside yet another matatu.
If people can get the firearms, they can also get tear gas. So it is a matter to investigate to know how did it happen. So I'm not saying the police did it. I'm not saying the team did it, but it is a matter which is going to be investigated to find out if, in the fullness of time, it happens, an officer did it. That officer will be dealt with individually, but not as a police, but not as an enforcement officer. That's now the person will be judged for the offense he has done as a person. You have to know that for a long time, the public and the city askaris, they have not been doing very well. And if something is happening, the first thing that a member of the public who comes, even without asking, might want to attack that officer. Our officers are not trained to handle firearms, weapons of any kind, including tear gas.
He was clearly at a loss of words. To someone who won't be, that is Sean Carter-Villas with the sports after the break. Stay with us.
The latest sports news now. Kenya's second biggest stadium, the Nyayo National Stadium, will be reopened by May this year. This is the reassurance given by Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, who toured the grounds this afternoon. Nyayo was closed 3 years ago and it was expected to be reopened in July of 2017, but work stalled until last year, with works now 70% complete. Celestine Olilo has the details.
For the first time since she was appointed, Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed toured the Nyayo National Stadium, accompanied by ministry officials who included Principal Secretary Kirimi Kaberia. The CS got a feel of the seats, which are being put up all around the 30,000-seater stadium. The last time Nyayo hosted a football match was in August 2017, with the game being the Mashimeji Derby. And since then, the playing surface has been overhauled and grass replanted. The official reopening date of the stadium, that is a fan favorite due to its convenient location, is still shrouded in mystery, but there is a glimmer of hope.
Kwa upande wa viti nafikiri tutaweza kukamilisha kabla ya mwisho wa mwezi wa 5. Ukiangalia hivi sasa tumekamilisha level ya kwanza, ya pili itaanzia wiki ijayo hivi, itakuwa ni rangi za bendera. Kwa hivyo nina hakika hapo kabla ya mwezi wa 5 tutakuwa tumekamilisha hapo.
I want to promise that we are going to do our best to make sure that we complete the work that is outstanding. As you've said, it's 70% complete. The 30% will be completed, we can assure you. It's always been an issue of resources, of course, but now with the sports fund, we expect to get the resources that are required.
Machakos Town Member of Parliament Victor Munyaka, who chairs the Sports, Culture and Tourism Committee, however expressed dissatisfaction with the government's slow pace of releasing money, saying that it has affected progress in Kinoru, Ruringu, Wote, Kamarin, Kipchoge Keino and Marsabit Stadium.
Arts and Social Development Fund, which is going to be unlocked very soon, will be able to avail enough funds to the ministry so that they can be able to finish this project and do other sports activities.
The question of just when this particular facility will be open for use is one that is becoming a hot potato among the ministry officials that have gathered here today. The PS has said that this facility will be open in mid-May to allow for football and other sporting activities to take place in here. Whether that will happen, only time will tell. Celestine Olilo, NTV, at the Nyayo National Stadium.
3 goals in the first 35 minutes helped Mathare United dispatch Posta Rangers 3-1 in the solitary Kenyan Premier League match played on Thursday. A Charles Odete own goal and goals by James Situma and Harun Jr. secured the win that saw the Slum Boys leapfrog Bandari to lie third on the log with 34 points, 2 adrift of top spot. The male men remain third from bottom with 16 points. In the meantime, the FKF National Super League that continued. Wazito defeated Kibera Black Stars 1-0 to go top on 50 points, 2 clear of second place to Shuru, who could, however, rise back to the top if they beat Green Commandos on Friday. Kenya men's volleyball teams, Prisons and GSU are both gunning for a podium finish in the men's volleyball club championships, and that's set to serve off on Saturday in Cairo, Egypt. Meanwhile, the debacle that engulfed the Prisons women's volleyball team has been addressed by the Interior CS, Fred Matiangi.
The Kenya Prisons volleyball men's team will be banking on the experience of coach David Lungaho to better their second place finish in 2011 at the African Club Championship in Cairo, Egypt.
I changed my style of coaching. I do a lot of scientific training. Of course, after having attended the high performance training, I do it scientifically, and it has also helped me in judging which players are good, because we do it on computer-based statistics.
Lungaho will be hoping the blend of experienced and new players under captain Ibrahim Oduor will brew success in Africa.
He has brought the new ideas. He has brought some changes to the playing system, and it's very encouraging. So what we are expecting is good results.
Kenya is yet to win the men's title, with their ever best performance being a podium finish in 2011, and the bar has been set high for the prison warders.
That was a problem of organization. It is very annoying. The decision we thought is that when they arrive here, we sack them. Then I told Zainab, anyway, since we also go to church to pray, or the mosque, that God forgives us, let us just forgive them.
The prisons team falls under the Ministry of Interior, and the Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i had a lot to say regarding the women's team that was said to have breached government protocol leading to its ejection from the Continental Extravaganza.
Even if it means you train for 20 hours, you have no choice. You have to bring a serious medal here.
13-time national champions GSU will be the other team representing Kenya at the games in Cairo.
Tusiporekebisha hiyo kama reception na blocking na defense, backward defense, hiyo ndio tumedwell naye hii mwaka, na tuna imani ya kuwa tutakapoenda pale tutapambana ya kufa na kupona.
Brian Otwal, NTV Sport.
Kenya's bid to escape relegation from the World Sevens Rugby Series has been given a boost by the inclusion of senior players in the national Sevens squad, and that's for the Hong Kong and Singapore Sevens legs. The team that departs on Monday will be captained by Jeffrey Olwuch and not veteran Andrew Omondi as earlier stated. Here's my report. Senior players Andrew Omondi, Eden Aguero, Augustine Lugonzo and Dan Sikuta have been named in the national Sevens rugby team that will play in the Hong Kong and Singapore Sevens legs of the World Rugby Series.
The issue still stands. Payment. The players to be able to perform where they need to be in a certain environment. I don't think there's something that you can wage a balance between the two, because playing is important. The country also comes first.
Homeboy centre Jeffrey Olwuch will captain the team that lies 14th with 18 points, just 4 above Japan, who occupied the last 10 relegation spot. South Africa-based Nondi centre Oscar Dennis will make his competitive debut for Shujaa, and he will join Mean Machine captain Shadon Munoko and season regulars Johnston Olindi, Daniel Tabo and Mark Wandeto.
We've had a bit of inexperience, so right now we have experienced guys together with the young guys that are still playing for us. So we expect to have a better results.
Shujaa is in a tough pool C that has Dubai and Sydney Sevens champions New Zealand, Cape Town and Hamilton Sevens champions Fiji and Australia. Meanwhile, the national women's Sevens rugby team are in Pool B of the Hong Kong Sevens, alongside Papua New Guinea, Hong Kong, China and Uganda.
We're able to actually scout and get quality players, the likes of Christabel Lindo, Vivian Akumu is making a first debut this tournament. Stella Wafula have been quite impressive during the festival tournament, and that's where we were able to pick up this talent from.
And Kenya Lionesses will be seeking to become a core side in the Women's World Sevens Series. Soccer Kits for Kids Africa, that's Sokiki, is seeking to use football to improve lives of children in Kisauni area of Mombasa, and that's in a bid to mentor and inspire them to keep their football and life dreams alive. To this end, Safaricom's Ndoto Zetu is providing full football kits as well as footballs to 4 age grade teams.
So I thought that as a person, I should start this initiative basically to help these children to engage themselves in football, so that they cannot involve themselves in drugs, they cannot involve themselves in substances that derail them from achieving what they want in life.
There's a gentleman here who came up with an idea where I could assist the kids here to get their kits, and we thought that it's a good idea, a noble idea, to help the children, nurture the young talents.
All right, that's the latest sports news. Back to you, Mark and Zainab. By the way, looking both very sharp this evening.
Well, thank you so much, Sean Cardovillis. Well, that wraps up our sports news. We'll also be ending our bulletin this hour. But before that, we ran a story by Charity Mwangi where a zebra decided to leave with the donkey. It's quite hilarious, but Mark made a statement apparently rubbed off
yeah,
my
your fans think I was making fun of you because the residents in Kibwezi said that zebra ni kukula na kulala. So I said that's akin to someone in the newsroom. But let it be clear, I was talking about kijana fupi amenona round.
Kijana fupi round.
Amenona round,
Ujui
yes.
mali mgongo na utumbo iko.
Hana kazi, anajijua. Anyway, let's wrap up. We're running our mouths.
Our sign language interpreter this evening is Flora Atieno. My name is Zainab Ismail. Good evening.
I'm Masai. Good night.